Right. So in the last session, we discussed about what exactly XML is all about. So yesterday, last session, we have given the introduction about XML, right, which is nothing but an extensible markup language, widely used in industry in context to the file formats, etc., all that stuff. Because when there is any kind of migration, especially when we are working on the migration projects, it's always important for us to understand and read the XML files. Either it can be in healthcare domain, or it can be banking or financial services, all that. In this regard, it's always important for us to learn and how and why XML is important and what are all the elements we have, right? So we need to discuss about SAX, we need to discuss about DOM, all that. So why XML is important, right? So this is the first question which most of the people will come into their mind. So XML is important for following reasons. The first one about it's a plain text where whatever the XML format files we want to develop, the format will be very plain so that we don't see much difficulty in writing the XML files. Even conversion of XML files from one to another is also something feasible and possible. Next, if we want to identify any kind of data, for example, we are working on the healthcare data, all that in context to the customer details or else patient details or else in context to the claim related stuff, etc. It's always important for us to understand about the data identification, etc. Right? So if you want to identify any kind of data, so even for data identification also, XML is important. Next is stylability. Stylability in context to the effectiveness while working on the applications. Next, inline reusability. Reusability is also one of the key and important element will be identified in this. Means reusability means the same XML file can be used in multiple variants, multiple occasions, whatever is required. So subsequent necessary changes can be made in this regard. So this is also one of the key and important element under that. This is what generally we call it as reusability, all that. Next, linkability, wherein if you want to link any kind of thing, right? So if you want to link this XML file with any other file formats, so that also can be done using a linkability part. Next, it can be easily processed. That's what sometime back I told you. When we are working on the data migration projects, so processing of file formats, right? So because normally when we are working on the migration projects apart from legacy systems to the new cloud applications, etc. So whatever the file formats will be of different, at the same time, the files will be different. So some are the document files, right? So some of images, videos, XML, all that, right? Video files, all that. So easily processed is also one of the asset for XML. Next, it's a hierarchical process because XML file formats are in hierarchical process so that one can be used effectively. So these are the advantages. Why are we using XML? Because of these reasons. Now, next we need to discuss about how can you use XML, right? So XML can be used in these grounds. One is about it's a traditional data processing. Through this manner, XML can be used so that whatever the processing of data we are managing, right? So what are the different traditional data processings to be have, right? So all these things comes under this category. Next, using document-driven programming, there is a programming as separate under XML format, which is called document-driven programming. Even using document-driven programming also, XML can be used. Next, binding and archiving is also, these are the two more elements, right? So because when we are working on the XML files, XML binding is one of the key and important element to be focused more on. Followed by this, how are we going to archive this? This is also one of the key and important element. So these are the ones which are essentially required. So when we are working on XML applications, when we want to working on XML file formats and all, while we are working on the application, for what purpose XML is important and in what way we are going to use these XMLs and all everything in while we are working on the application is what something essentially needed. is what something which all these will give you a clear understanding all that. So this is all about why XML and how can we use XML, all this. And the next session, I'm going to discuss about SAX, right? So what is SAX and what is DOM? So that part I'm going to discuss in next session. Thank you.